The fluorescent lights hummed above me like a mechanical heartbeat as I stood frozen in aisle 7, clutching a can of tomato soup that suddenly felt heavier than lead. The silence was deafening, not the comfortable quiet of an empty house, but the oppressive, unnatural silence of a place that should never be this still. "Hello?" My voice cracked as it echoed through the endless rows of shelves. "Hello?" Nothing. I dropped the soup can and it hit the linoleum with a metallic clang that seemed to reverberate through the entire store. That's when reality hit me like a freight train. I was locked inside MegaMart, alone, at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night. How did this happen? How does someone accidentally get locked in a supermarket in 2025? The answer was embarrassingly simple: pure, concentrated stupidity mixed with the worst timing in human history. It started innocently enough. I'd been having one of those days where everything goes wrong: spilled coffee on my laptop, missed an important meeting, got a parking ticket, the works. By the time I remembered I needed groceries, it was already 10:30 p.m. Most places were closed, but MegaMart stayed open until 11 p.m., so I figured I had just enough time. I should have known better when I saw only 3 cars in the parking lot. The automatic doors whooshed open, and Carl, the night security guard, barely glanced up from his crossword puzzle. "Store closes in 30 minutes, he mumbled. "No problem," I said, grabbing a cart. "Just need a few things." Famous last words. Here's the thing about grocery shopping when you're stressed and tired. You become incredibly indecisive. Suddenly, choosing between chunky and smooth peanut butter becomes a philosophical crisis. Do I want the organic milk or the regular? Is this pasta sauce worth the extra $2? Before I knew it, I was standing in the cereal aisle having an existential breakdown over whether Lucky Charms could be considered a legitimate dinner option. That's when I heard it, the announcement echoing through the store. "Attention shoppers, MegaMart will be closing in 5 minutes. Please bring your final purchases to the checkout lanes." 5 minutes? Where had the time gone? I abandoned my cart and sprinted toward the front of the store, my sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. But as I rounded the corner past the pharmacy, I saw something that made my heart sink. Darkness. The checkout lanes were already shut down, their conveyor belts still and silent. The customer service desk was empty, the registers covered with plastic sheeting. "Wait!" I called out, running toward the front doors. "I'm still here." But the lights were already dimming, section by section, like dominoes falling in reverse. The automatic doors stood motionless, their sensors dark. I pushed against them, but they wouldn't budge. Through the glass, I could see Carl's security booth, but it was empty, just a half-finished crossword puzzle and a cup of coffee growing cold. I pulled out my phone to call... Who? 911? "Hello, I'm an idiot who got locked in a grocery store." Didn't seem like an emergency worth reporting. The non-emergency number? I didn't even know what that was. The store's main number would probably just go to voicemail. That's when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We post new content every week that explores the everyday trauma we all face. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Now back to our story. No signal, not even one bar. I was completely cut off from the outside world. The emergency lighting kicked in, casting everything in an eerie blue glow. The store had transformed from a familiar, mundane space into something alien and unsettling. The aisles stretched endlessly into shadow, and every product on every shelf seemed to be watching me with colorful, vacant eyes. I tried to think rationally. Someone would notice I was missing eventually, right? Wrong. I lived alone, worked from home, and had the social life of a hermit crab. I could be dead for weeks before anyone found me. Well, at least I wouldn't starve. That morbid thought actually made me laugh. A sharp, slightly hysterical sound that echoed through the store. Here I was, trapped in a building full of food, and I was worried about starving. If anything, I'd probably die of diabetes from living on nothing but candy and soda. I decided to explore my prison. Maybe there was a back exit, or an employee break room with a phone that worked. I wandered through the maze of aisles, my footsteps echoing in the unnatural quiet. The pharmacy was locked behind metal gates. The deli counter looked like an abandoned crime scene, with its sneeze guards reflecting the emergency lighting in strange, distorted patterns. Then I found the employee break room. The door was unlocked, and inside was a small table, a few chairs, and jackpot, a landline phone mounted on the wall. I grabbed the receiver and nearly cried with relief when I heard the dial tone. But who to call? I didn't know anyone's number by heart anymore. My parents lived 3 states away. My ex-girlfriend would probably laugh and hang up. My boss would fire me for disrupting his sleep over something so ridiculous. I dialed 411 for directory assistance, but the automated system wanted me to state the name of the business I was looking for. MegaMart, I said. I need the number for MegaMart. I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Please state the name of the business you're looking for. MegaMart, the grocery store. I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Please state. I slammed the receiver down so hard it bounced off the cradle and swung by its cord like a pendulum. Okay, new plan. I'd wait until morning when the store opened. How hard could it be to survive one night in a grocery store? I had food, water, even a bathroom if I needed it. I'd just find a comfortable spot, maybe grab a magazine from the rack, and wait it out. No big deal. But as the hours ticked by, I realized that spending the night in a grocery store wasn't the cozy adventure I'd imagined. It was actually terrifying. First, there were the sounds. You don't realize how much noise a grocery store makes until it's trying to be quiet. The refrigerated cases hummed and clicked on and off. The freezers groaned and shuddered. Somewhere in the distance, a cash register beeped intermittently for no reason I could determine, and every few minutes the ice machine would dump a load of cubes with a crash that made me jump out of my skin. Then there were the lights. The emergency lighting wasn't constant. It flickered and dimmed randomly, creating moving shadows that looked like people walking between the aisles. Twice, I was absolutely certain I saw someone in my peripheral vision, only to turn and find nothing but a cardboard display for breakfast cereal. By 2 a.m., I was losing my mind. I'd built myself a nest in the home goods section, surrounded by pillows and blankets from the clearance rack. I dragged a shopping cart over and filled it with provisions, water bottles, protein bars, a bag of chips, and, because stress makes you do weird things, a pint of ice cream that I was eating directly from the container with a plastic spoon. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. Not the random creaking and settling of the building, but actual footsteps. Slow, deliberate, getting closer. I held my breath and listened. There it was again. Squeak, 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 like someone walking in wet shoes. "Hello?" I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. "Is someone there?" The footsteps stopped. I grabbed a flashlight from the camping section and crept toward the sound. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating row after row of products, but no people. I was starting to think I'd imagined it when I heard something that made my blood freeze. The unmistakable sound of a shopping cart rolling down an aisle. I ran toward the sound, my flashlight beam dancing wildly as I stumbled through the store. But when I reached the main aisle, I found nothing. Just a shopping cart sitting in the middle of the floor, gently rocking back and forth as if it had just stopped moving. "Okay," I said out loud. "This is not happening. I am not being haunted by a grocery store ghost. This is just sleep deprivation and too much caffeine." But as I walked back to my makeshift camp, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Every shadow seemed to move. Every reflection in the freezer doors looked like a face. And worst of all, I kept hearing that sound. Squeak, 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 following me wherever I went. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Instead, I sat on my pile of pillows, clutching my flashlight, and watched the darkness until the first rays of dawn began to filter through the front windows. At exactly 6 a.m., I heard the most beautiful sound in the world. Keys jingling at the front door. I ran toward the entrance like a marathon runner approaching the finish line. Through the glass doors, I could see Maria, the morning shift manager, fumbling with her keys. When she saw me, her face went through about 17 different expressions before settling on pure confusion. "What the hell?" she mouthed through the glass. The doors finally whooshed open, and I practically fell into her arms. "Oh my God, Maria, I've never been so happy to see another human being in my entire life." "What are you doing here?" she demanded. "How did you get locked in?" I told her the whole story, about missing the closing announcement and getting trapped and spending the night in home goods. She listened with the patience of someone who's worked in retail long enough to know that customers are capable of absolutely anything. "You couldn't find the emergency exit?" she asked when I finished. "What emergency exit?" She pointed to a door not 20 feet from where I'd been sitting, a door clearly marked emergency exit in bright red letters. I stared at it for a long moment, then looked back at Maria. "I'm an idiot." "Yeah," she said, but she was smiling. You kind of are, but hey, at least you got a good story out of it. She was right. As I walked to my car in the morning sunlight, I realized that my night of terror had actually been kind of amazing. When would I ever get the chance to have an entire grocery store to myself again? I'd survived something that most people would never experience. I'd faced my fears and come out the other side. Plus, I'd eaten a whole pint of Ben & Jerry's for breakfast, and sometimes that's exactly what you need. But I'll tell you one thing. I'm never ever shopping at MegaMart again after 10 p.m. Some adventures are only worth having once. And if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, learn from my mistake. Look for the emergency exit. It's probably right there, waiting for you to notice it. Trust me on this one.